like to call the Proctor City Council meeting to order Monday, March 6th, 2023. Everyone can stand up. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Administrator Rich, roll call.
Councilor Johnson.
Here.
Councilor Roller.
Here.
Councilman
Present.
Acting Mayor DeWall.
Present.
Mayor DeWall.
We cannot hear you. No others present. Dick and Cookie Kari, Bridget Peterson, and Lucas Nordby. And Attorney Bray, Administrator Rich. Looking for a approval of last regular minutes.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, seconded by Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Looking for a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Reuter, seconded by Benson. Approval of the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, we'll take comments and suggestions from the citizens present, and they can call in on 628
6289. 628-6289.
628-6289. We'll give that a minute. Two. Hearing nothing, I'm going to move forward. Administrator Rich, if somebody happens to call in, we'll resort back. Looking for approval on the consent agenda.
So move.
Motion by Johnson. I'll second it. Any further discussion of the approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That leads us to communications. Nothing under communications for this evening. Administrator Rich?
Those are all approved under the consent agenda. 1, 2, 3, yep.
Okay. So that leads us to Clerk Advises Council 4A.
I have first on Clerk Advises Council and is kind of hoping for a dialogue on this. We invited organizers from the Hoghead Festival. They had met with Mayor Ward about some comment or some issues, concerns, future of Hoghead Festival. So I put those meeting minutes in your packet, but also invited members of the Lions Club and organizers to come and have a dialogue with you and maybe brainstorm some ideas on the upcoming future festivals. So if anyone from Lions Club wanted to first approach the council, or if you had any questions for them, you can start there.
Yes.
Well, we met with the mayor a couple weeks ago, just like she said, to have a brainstorm session of what does the community expect Hoghead to look like each year. And this is our Lions Club minus my husband and our president. So this is all we have right here. And it's a pretty big job to do. We do get help from Sally in the tourism office. I don't know what her real title is, but so she does help do some of the detail work too. But it's just a big ordeal to do, and just want to make sure that we live up to the expectations, and wondering if we could get a little bit more help in everything, since we don't have a lot of members with our group anymore. Anything more you wanted to add? Oh, one of the other things too that we talked with the mayor about is, our Lions International has the event insurance that pretty much will cover the event. But I'm new to Lions Club, this is my second year. We end up having to go and purchase a separate policy. It's about $500. When you look at what the policy covers, everything we need it to cover is listed as an exemption. So just wondering why we would need a separate policy to do that. Our funding for Hoghead, we do our buttons, which I think the community really gets into. The businesses enjoy helping us out with that. Community members enjoy buying them. But to make 500 buttons and sell 500 buttons is a lot of work if what we're buying really isn't going to do anything for us. So that was one of our big questions too.
So the International has $1 million in insurance, and you
Yes.
need more than that?
I guess we do, just was wondering why.
Is it 1.5?
I think it might be 1.2, but I'll look it up real quick.
It seems like a lot of places went more to the 1.5, 2, 3.
Well, I think with the extra 500,000, if I remember right, it came from the League of Minnesota Cities, and they suggested to the city that they should get an extra 500,000, but they didn't need it. I carry a $1.5 million for all of my events, and at least $1 million. I can't remember if I got that extra $500,000 or not. I'd have to talk to Brisky. But when I talked to Brisky about that, he said it isn't in law that you have to carry that extra $500,000. So I don't know where we stand on this, but every time we turn around, it's costing more. And I was just talking to Rory a little bit ago about the police protection, and I'm a little disappointed, to say the least. I hired 9 security guards because I was under the assumption that my bill was going to be cheaper this year than last year, and it was pretty expensive for somebody. I guess I look at it, I'm paying somebody a wage to work, and if they don't do anything, they can't check IDs, they don't stand at the gates, and the guys that I hired from Stealth Security walked the fences, checked IDs, helped the people at the gates. If they needed anything, they'd just ask them and they'd help them do that. And I paid over $3,400 for police protection, and when I asked for I can't remember what the name of it is, for the racetrack, they paid $2,400 for 3 events, and 2 of the events they had over 2,000 people at. And when I called the city of Duluth, they used 2 police officers for every 1,000 people at Bayfront. So that's an extra $3,400 out of my pocket that I could use to spend someplace else, and the expenses, 1,000 here, 800 here, 1,500 here, it just keeps adding up and adding up. And I don't know what we're gonna do when the VFW moves in, because there's not enough parking there anyways. The Moose doesn't help us out. I'm a Moose member. We put on the car show, which is the biggest event around here. And they put a barricade up so that nobody could park in their parking lot. And then when we talked to them about it, they said they didn't, but I think Bridget had a picture of it, and we don't get any help from them. And they got a lot to gain at Hoghead. It helps them out, their coffers, to build money into their coffers for that. So when we had discussed this earlier, we just thought if any help we could get from the city here, Or we've even tried to put an ad out for volunteers for individuals, and I don't know if you guys remember back the year that you canceled Hoghead because of COVID. We got a lot of backlash from citizens, but when my wife put on the biggest thing was they say all the bars want to make money. Well, of course. I haven't seen anybody in business that don't want to make money. But it's tough, you know, to handle all this stuff, and the money's still going out crazy, and we don't get any help. And we do appreciate the fireworks, because that's one thing that people talk a lot about, and I'm sure that you've heard people talk about the fireworks. And like I say, if there anything we can get the city to do to help, or whether it's money or time, volunteers help put something out to get volunteers, but we just don't get them.
Jake, can we throw an article or have we done that yet?
Not for this year.
Article looking for volunteers to steer Hoghead or volunteers to join Lions?
To help out.
No, you know, there was some basic information, you know, we certainly would put out.
So if Jake puts together an article to throw in the journal, who should we contact?
Bridget.
And do you want to, you know, contact Jake afterwards and
Yes.
take care of that? You know, that's a start.
Yeah, we do have a web page too. Is it a web page or what?
Please step
to the podium. Please step to the podium.
We have a Facebook page, and Sally kind of helps out with that, and that didn't work either for us. We've had people that, you know, talk about it, but nobody shows up, so I don't know what else to do, you know. We pay for people to put up or I pay for people to put up the fence, you know. So the street dance is separate from the Hoghead. It's still the Hoghead weekend or whatever, but it's separate because the Lions Club won't insure the alcohol part of it. So that's why I'll go out and get that extra insurance for that.
So the event application states that liability insurance needs to be in the amount of $2 million, naming the city of Proctor as additional insured. And then if any event is serving alcohol, they have to have an additional liability of $500,000. So the insurance requirement is,
Is that a state legal insurance trust, or is that a city policy?
that's a city policy.
John, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Didn't the city go through this 5, 6 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
And if I remember right, we kind of went with public safety recommendations?
Yep. And I think the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think we just pulled numbers to pull them. You know, maybe it should go through that channel again and readdress it. As far as getting help, I don't know how to address that. Everyone's having trouble getting help or volunteers, no matter which way you go. Do you still, as far as looking at, you know, obviously the Lions is trying to raise revenues to give back. They did classes one year, I think when Kevin Comnick was involved, or they, in some form or fashion, give it back to those in need. So the flyers that go up, do businesses still advertise, pay for those flyers? Is that another revenue source, or is that kind of gone the wayside with COVID?
We did do that again this year, so we do ask for a donation if you get your name on the flyer. And then we use a lot of that money to pay actually for parade participants. If you want the Shriners to come with the cars, you have to pay them. If you want the bagpipes to come, you have to pay them. We have a little money from last year left over. We're hoping to maybe get a few more bands. If you want another band to come, you have to pay them. So in order for the parade to be really a parade, it costs money. And as far as like volunteering things, we're just looking like, I was at the parade with one other person. We get the grand marshal for the parade. We get the honored rail. They're all excited to show up to be in their roles for the parade. And I'm racing around getting people lined up. There's nobody there to talk to them, to make them feel that it's their day, that they are the star of the show. And I felt horrible about that. So, you know, things like that rolls in the details of things.
If someone were wanting to get involved in the Hoghead Festival, how would they know who to contact or where to show up for planning meetings? Or I'm just Joe Blow on the street and I want to get involved. How would I know who would I find to do that?
Well, if we are gonna run a newspaper article, we definitely put that information in there. They would wanna attend a Lions Club meeting. And then we do start planning, we're already planning for Hoghead right now. And then we could set up our extra meetings. And then Sally kinda has some of the, pieces that she does as well.
Okay.
And I guess our main thing is just to ask you, what do you feel it needs to be? Does it need to be a parade? Do you want the street vendors? Do you want the kids' games? I mean, is that what Hoghead is, or are we just doing all of this and people really don't care about it?
From personal experience with citizens, it seems like get a lot of good feedback for the kids' events. To me, Hoghead is about families coming together with their young ones to have a fun day, whether it's cotton candy, hot dog, pizza, bouncy houses, different games. The fire department usually does a water show. I know the movie on the hill is a big thing. And then fireworks, obviously, is a big thing. I know the city has been supporting that, and then the movie. But to me, that's kind of the Hoghead scheme. For one, I don't think the city's in any shape or form in the business of trying to run an entire event. I don't think we're qualified to. You know, I guess just having pointed that question out there, not to take a little deflection here, I hear a lot of, I mean, I didn't understand that we had to pay Shriners to show up, or I'm glad, that's useful information. I assume they do that out of duty. But I suppose it costs money to keep cars going and bagpipes clean, whatever. Being volunteers is kind of lacking. I know in other cities, they have, I mean, sometimes they hire out, like I said, we're not qualified to run this type of an event. We want to support it when and where we can. Thinking outside the shell, is it, I mean, there's people that do this a lot. Has anyone approached any of those folks to run the event? I would assume they're going to want to take part of the profit, but.
Well, actually, I talked with Al Turway at Dees. You know, they had the Dees is, the Westerlo Street Festival is kind of done with the car show, moved up to the Buffalo House, but they had a guy named Ivan, and he contacted me several years ago about running the Hoghead, and I don't know if it was just a car show or the whole thing, but there's no money in it for him to make any money. You see, well, we get the vendors. What do we get for a vendor, Cook? $100? $100 for a vendor, depending on if they need electricity or not, and we charge nothing for the car show, and I don't think any of the others have either, but We just have to, there's a lot of work to do, but yeah, he approached me and we couldn't afford to have him because of the dollar amount that he wanted. And he would have done everything from the car show to the street dance. And when you get and that's what I'm sure he's looking at, street dance, people coming in, and he takes care of everything. But I think, and don't quote me, but when I talk to Al, they all throw in money for seed for him to start. And I don't know what it is. So let's say like the year that we all threw in $1,000, so there was money there to start with. And I don't know if that was the price or not, but they have some organizations down there, and I'll put a dance on it. Is it Merritt where the plane is down there? They put a dance on down there, but the West Duluth businessmen don't have anything to do with it anymore.
Dick, to the police situation with that cost and responsibilities and that stuff, is that something that maybe you and our administrator and the chief need to sit down and discuss?
Yes, I would love to do that. You know, and last year I was under the assumption, I talked with Kent, and I was under the assumption that it was gonna be cheaper because I hired a whole group of security guys. And I'll tell you what, I'd recommend them to anybody for an event because they did a good job. And I'd love to do that. That could save some money. And actually, I could always put some money towards the Hoghead other than the street dance for an event if I had to. But we get a lot of help from pull tabs. I'm trying to think, not Valley Youth, but it's Irving Community. And you know, she helps pay for a lot of stuff. And that comes from the gambling. So it's little stuff like that, the bouncy houses they help pay for. And all this money that's made at those bouncy houses, either the football team, we try to recruit football team, basketball team, anybody, and then they keep the receipts. So we don't have enough people to run it. And Lee Harnell has been great to us. He sets it up, and we have Valley Youth actually come up, and I pay them to clean up. They get part of the wages from the ticket sales, and then on Sunday they come and clean up with their kids, and then the fire department comes in and we write a check for the fire department for $200, which ain't a lot, but I don't know if it goes into their slush fund, but it comes out of the powerhouse pocket.
So Administrator Rich, if you can set that up, that'd be cool.
I hate to bring the topic up, but does tourism money cover any, it's kind of a regional event. I know it doesn't cover fireworks, but the advertising of it or marketing of it. Does anybody know that?
Do you notice?
Well, I didn't hear what you were saying.
I was talking
Troy was.
tourism funds.
Yeah, we applied last year for tourism funds, and I think Lucas has filled out that it's got to get to Sally, but they only give us $1,500, and I haven't got a reason why they would only give us $1,500. It must something to do with the hotels or whatever. And I had this idea last year, and I ran it past Sally and the Lions Club and I talked to 3 of the managers at the 3 hotels. And I asked them because we wanted to find out if people were coming into town for Hoghead, because they claimed that they would be full if there was Hoghead or not. So I asked them if we had a small form for them, people come in, let's say you come into town, ask you a few questions. It isn't going to be for marketing or anything. It's going to be so we know what they're here for. Your name, what city you're from, and what are you here for. And after we get that information, we don't want any address, no phone numbers or nothing. So we got an idea. Well, we were all set to do it. I think Bridget we were getting the forms made up. Well, then all of a sudden we get a call, and I don't know can't remember who called and said they didn't want to do it. They didn't think we should do that. And I don't know why. We've been talking about this for years so we can track who comes for class reunions, and they probably say a class reunion, but there is a lot of them, class reunions that come at Hoghead time, because people want to come back to the town.
Any other question, counselors? Administrator Rich? Bridget?
We also send a letter to the school district, to the athletic director, superintendent, principals, to see if they have any groups that need to raise money for anything. That Hoghead's a great opportunity for them to come up with a booth or help us in any way. One year when the middle school was going over to Europe, we had a lot of help from that group. But last year, I don't think anybody really needed anything. So it's just, it seems to be hit or miss, but we were mainly looking to see if there's maybe another group that would want to say, we'll take the vendors or we'll help with little kids games in the street, and then we will make the kids games, we will set them up, we'll run them, and that's their fundraiser for the year, instead of having to go out and try to sell something. I mean, it's just a great opportunity. Just hoping if you can think of anybody, let us know. I was asking, I believe I was asking Sally about these history buffs that are supposed to be in Proctor. I mean, would they be willing to maybe come up with the Golden Spike contest? Or just, if you can think of anybody that would want to help us out, let us know.
Have you contacted the historical?
We did contact the Historical Society, and they're pretty much, their numbers are down as well, and they're able-bodied people. They'll help sell our buttons, but as far as the big events that they did the last couple years, I think that's done. They didn't do anything this last year. Yeah, we ended up hiring a guy from the radio station. He helped with the Golden Spike contest. We ran it through the Journal and posted everything, so that went pretty slick, but, that was an expense again that we had to do, just because we heard people like that Golden Spike contest.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Benson?
Yeah, and the Journal, Proctor Journal has been running that Golden Spike contest for decades. Last year, for whatever reason, just didn't work out. And I've always said that more people followed the powerhouse, more businesses. If everybody just took on one little activity, it would make things a lot easier and special. And I could certainly see about returning that to the Golden Spike, the cruise. Save some money there.
Thanks.
I would also suggest to reach out to the couple of new businesses that are in town. Focus on Living. They're two Proctor grads.
Okay.
And then the old restaurant. I'm not sure who they are that's in there. You know,
The old Dairy Queen, right?
yeah.
And it seemed like the new football coaches wanted to be very active and engaging in the community. So if you reach out to the athletic director, I would see some help coming from that end.
Who's that now, the athletic director?
Anthony Wood.
Well, thank you.
No,
Keep
thank
in touch.
you guys for all that you do. And we need to work together on this.
Sure, thanks again.
Leave us to 4B.
Thank you. So I just need to get on the page. The St. Louis County has reached out to us that they are planning concrete restoration on what is their County State Aid Highway 11, or otherwise known as our Second Street, from Fifth Avenue all the way to Boundary Avenue. It is not going to be a complete rehab. They're not changing the width of the street or adding any special features unless, of course, the city would like to consider doing something like that, at which time it would be, at the cost of the city. We've met with city staff about the water and sewer condition on that section, and there's just one area where there's a concern. It doesn't call for a complete rehab. Our transportation study recommended bike lanes on this section of County State Aid 11 or Second Street. So I just wanted to, what that would mean is that parking on one side or both sides of that street, because they're not changing the width of the street, would get eliminated. I did bring this up to the Second Street Committee when we met last week, and they felt losing at least the parking in the block from the bank to Highway 2 would be a detriment to those businesses in that section. And so if you look at getting a bike lane in there, the Second Street Committee also made a quasi recommendation that just bike lanes can be dangerous sometimes, especially when you're not expecting them. And so they weren't very thrilled about you do not have to follow your transportation plan. Those were recommendations. But it's a good idea that if you would like the county to look into the bike lanes, or you'd like to have a further discussion with them, can certainly arrange that. Or if you've decided as a community that bike lanes aren't a good place in that area, we can look in future plans of adding them to another street. But you should document why you didn't follow your transportation plan with that recommendation. So I bring this to you to not make a decision tonight, but maybe have some recommendations, some direction of where you would like me to take this.
Well, if I may, Council, I definitely agree from Highway 2 through that First National Bank, Old City Hall. There's no way I don't feel that we'll crush businesses with not having parkings on both sides. However, from Highway 2 to Fifth Avenue over the railroad tracks, we generally have had a verbal agreement that we try not to park anything on the north side of the road of Second Street. Trying to maintain that. I know Senate has done a wonderful job of keeping the sidewalk free and clear, because that tends to be a general thoroughfare for kids. In our new plan with Second Street from 5th going to 9th, we have trail, bike, walking, whatever you want to call it. Maybe one could look at going down the middle and doing it just on the north side of Second Street to Highway 2 and have it end there, just as if it would end on 5th. Just a thought.
I agree with that. I mean, I think if we're gonna have a trail coming from the school down to Fifth, it would be nice to at least have a bike lane that took you down at least to where the highway is. And I also agree that there usually isn't any parking on the north side, although when there's parking on the south side and you got buses and everything there, it gets tight even without a bike lane. But I would like to see us kind of continue it down, at least to the highway. I agree that going east from there would be a disaster, at least first block.
And with the new, I'll call it ADA compliant corners that the county did 3 years ago, the extra traffic signal stuff really took up a lot of the corners, so it's going to be tight either way.
And the Second Street Committee did recommend it on, you know, but maybe at least looking at on the north side. But bike traffic is two-way, and bike traffic has to go with the flow of traffic. So if you have one
On the
going
north.
eastbound, you have to have one going westbound, or that's typically how it is, because if you're directing. But I don't know, there could be other methods that they have for engineering things, I'm not quite sure.
So how are we doing that on one side with the Second Street plan?
It's not a bike lane, it's a
not-
multimodal
It's
trail.
not part of the road.
Yeah. Yep, it's separated by a boulevard. Yeah. The other thing is they're not changing the dimensions of the road unless, of course, we want them to, but, you know, it's paint. It could be something that we could add later on, or I could have that conversation. Does this have to be a decision that we make right now? Since there is one plan in the transportation plan that showed like a physical barrier, so like bollards or something that blocks traffic, and that would of course require work right now, but maybe this is just something as we get further down the trail process that we can look at. It's not scratched, just tabled for right now.
I thought it could work with a bike trail on the north side, but if you have to have one on both sides without changing anything in the road, I don't think that would work at all down that
Yeah.
area.
Well, and I'm not saying that we have to, but bikes traffic's supposed to go with the flow of traffic, you know, so if you have,
But right now, they ride on the sidewalk. Can't somebody go on the sidewalk?
I don't
Somebody go
know.
on the bike trail? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I could certainly bring the idea up to the county and see if they have some design ideas to accommodate that.
Though realistically, the only way we could extend it would be a half a block from Fifth to Peonk, or, yeah, Peonk. Where there's just not anybody parking.
Well, and that wouldn't be, you know, if you're going west now you'd be, or going east, you'd have to cross over the road at Fifth Avenue in order to get on that one if you're coming down the trail now on the new Second Street, which isn't a good thing to make them have to go across, but I don't know.
Something to think about, but we'll continue and have a conversation with our engineers and with the county's engineers.
I like the idea of resurfacing the road, even though that's fairly new across there. It's unbelievable how beat up this stuff is already. Just before we go off that subject, just a quick reminder, what's the status on Highway 2? When was that project gonna start? Next year?
It has been delayed because they have determined from Midway Road, they moved the project to, it was going to go from Boundary to Midway, and now they've prioritized Midway to 194 Highway 2 intersection, that it's in worse condition than this section, and they need to bump up the schedule for fixing that than this. So at best, in the next couple of years, we'll get some potholes filled.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Councilor Benson.
Thank you. On a different topic, but still on Second Street, when it comes to the intersections and they have the white lane crossing, in Grand Rapids, they have a old water tower. For Grand Rapids, it's their symbol. And they incorporated that symbol as part of their branding and community identity into the crosswalk. And I'm not sure if they used a stencil or how they did it, but it was a unique idea. And I think we should at least explore that if they're going to be putting down the little white markings for the crosswalks. That would be ideal. I think theirs was blue and white. But, and I do have some photos, and I could drop that off with Administrator Rich, and she could disseminate those to the council and the Second Street Committee. And with the little logo I have in mind that I think would work with the crosswalks. Inexpensive.
Anything else, council, on item 4B? That brings us to 4C.
This is just an update on where we are at with our participation in the opioid settlement. To date, we've received just over $9,300, and I've attached an exhibit which says what the approved uses are. So I'll be working with Finance Director Brunfeld, Chief Hellquist, Chief Gatus, Sergeant Riebel, and maybe there's a lot of youth components to the uses of the funds. So working with SRO, School Resource Officer Michael Bradley, on recommendations that moving forward, we don't know if we're going to continue getting these settlements. We don't know how much the amount is going to be. It seems as though they're still allowing cities and counties to come on board, so it depends on participation as well. But I just wanted to give you this list so you could think about it as well and have it in front of you for when the public safety people who are dealing with the drug crisis sometimes on a daily basis, what recommendations they may have.
And I'm assuming we're not able to take any administration fees back off of that money awarded of what it costs us to get that?
I think it was 10% you can take.
So I would be curious what we've spent. 'Cause I know we spent a few grand. Further questions, councilors? So basically at this time, Administrator Rich, you've got your core group together going through to make some recommendations to bring to council?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nobody has any other questions? That'll bring us to 6A. 2023 home occupation recommendations. Should have that before you.
Has planning and zoning looked at these and been okay with all of them?
Yes.
I'd make a motion that we approve the home occupation permits presented to us.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Just one side question. Seems like it's not as many as years past. Is that?
We had one of the music.
One of the music teachers retired, and then we did have a new salon. Other than that, they're all the same.
Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 6B, Second Street, St. Louis County Agreement.
So this, if I may, Mayor, this is an agreement that SEH and myself came to with the St. Louis County Highway Department for the work that's going to be done at the intersection of Second Street and Fifth Avenue. That still is a county section, and this will be a separate agreement. Since they were going to be doing some improvements to that area already, it just made sense. We needed to do some improvements with this project. We couldn't just leave the intersection the way it was. And so this was the amount that they agreed to reimburse us for that.
So do you need a motion on this?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Johnson, seconded by Counselor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 6C, Resolution 08-23, Gambling Permit.
I'd make a motion to adopt resolution 0823, 08-23.
I'll second that. Any further discussion on Resolution 08-23? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 6D, South St. Louis County Fair and Lakehead Racing Agreement. Administrator Rich, anything?
This is pretty much the same agreement that we spent quite a bit of time last year. Management agreement drafting up and working between the two organizations. It is the same agreement, just the dates have changed.
So looking for a motion for the
So move.
motion by Johnson,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 6E, South St. Louis County Fair and Dirt Floor Arena Agreement.
Again, same contract that has been presented to you in the past.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Counselor Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion? Counselor Benson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a item in there about the fair being responsible to Minnesota Power for electricity. Has there been any discussion about switching that to Proctor Public Utilities since it's within the corporate limits of Proctor?
I don't know if that might be Minnesota Power's territory.
It is.
It's not.
It is.
Yeah. No, it's not in the PUC's territory.
But has there been any discussions about incorporating the fairgrounds into the PUC territory?
That I wouldn't know.
I can state that. There has been discussions since I've been on, the problem being they're not ready to sell it. And if they did, they would want to take another portion from us somewhere.
Oh, I get that. I was, that whole Bayview versus the DMNIR.
Because we've also looked at it recently, annexed land south on 35 too as well.
Yes.
And the same ticket is they want something in return other than just money.
I would recommend goodwill,
I will bring that up.
please.
Anything else for the St. Louis County Fair and Dirt Floor Arena?
Actually, if I might,
Go ahead, Counselor Benson.
That is something we could discuss as far as a legislative item, that, you know, if you have a public utilities and you annex in property, there should be some mechanism that's not going to bankrupt the city to allow their Public Utility Commission to have control over property within their corporate limits. But that's for another day.
Can you just make a note of that, Administrator Rich, so that we can have a short discussion next PUC meeting, please? Thank you. Anything else? Item 6E? Okay, hearing nothing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That leads us to can't get there quick enough, but it would be 7A.
7A.
7A, looking for a motion to close the regular session based on statute. Administrator Rich, 13D.
.06, labor negotiations.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Reuter,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Benson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We shall return. Thank you for hanging in with us, citizens of Proctor. Like to make a motion to accept the UFCW contract as per discussed,
I'll second that.
seconded by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion is to accept the fire department agreement as per discussed. I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That brings us to members' concerns?
Yep.
Computer won't go fast enough. I don't have the second page. So I'll just, Counselor Johnson,
I have nothing.
Counselor Reuter,
Nothing from me.
Counselor Benson,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to wish all those who are inclined to have a happy Purim, which started this evening at sundown and lasts till sundown tomorrow. So, happy Purim.
Administrator Rich,
No, nothing for me.
Attorney Bray.
Nothing for me.
I just wanted to wish all the Proctor high schoolers that are entering into their playoff seasons and good luck.
Yes.
And that's all that I have. Entertain a motion to approve bills. It looks like this math is correct. $37,214.37.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Reuter, seconded by Counselor Johnson to pay the bills. Any further discussion?
I wish every
I was
couple of weeks was like this.
I was just going to say, it's been a while. Having no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pay the bills. Entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion.
I was going to say, that's yours.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Johnson. Thank you very much.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Yes.